AM 1060 WMEL. The views expressed on the following program are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and are not necessarily those of WMEL staff, management, or advertisers.
This is Joe Steckler, folks, your host for Helping Seniors, the radio arm of Helping Seniors of Brevard County Incorporated. Our program is designed to educate, inform, and connect seniors and those that care for seniors to services. And just this day, I picked up another case that we're going to have to look into after this radio show, because it becomes apparent that so many times people have problems that they just don't know where to go for help because seemingly there is no help or care available. And in this particular case, I had a brainstorm while somebody was talking to me. I'll look into it after the radio show, and if it's successful, I'll tell you about it on a follow-on radio show, but I don't want to say anything until it's over with. But the phone number to call Kay at the office is 473-7770. And Kay, if you're listening, I'll call you right after the radio show. Our sponsors for this part of the show include Kindred at Home, formerly known as Gentiva Home Health Care, Eye Institute, Dr. Lee Sheldon, my panelist today, Bill Johnson, elder law attorney, WMEL at AM 1060, this radio station, Wistoff Hospital Systems, Levin Home Care, Atlantic Shores Rehab, Everyday News Today, Wendy Handy, Dale Sorensen, Riverview Senior Resort, and Organized Creative Designs. That sounds like a lot of people, folks, but I need to tell you the names of some of the people that help us help you. And this is the nice thing about all our sponsors are people, almost all of them, involved in the care of seniors or the care of people that understand the problems of aging without having adequate finances or plans in place to take care of you. And I know Dr. Sheldon has long been aware of that, and we try to talk about dentistry on a radio show, but we get off track, don't we, Lee?
All the time, Joe.
But the reason, Lee, that we get off track is because you're a darn good periodontist, but you're also aware of other problems that come about from just being a person. And I want to ask you a personal question, and the reason you're so concerned about this, does this stem from the fact that you're Jewish? Does it or not? What does your religion have to do with how you feel about helping people? And I bet you've never been asked that question.
I haven't, and I don't even know how to respond to that.
You will.
Because if I'm to look at it from a religious standpoint, I'm certainly we're looking at it from a responsibility standpoint. Certainly, if we look at the Old Testament, which is what is our Bible, and we look at what occurred. For example, plowing of the fields, or harvesting of the fields, you would always leave the corners unplowed or unharvested, so the poor people could get to those corners, and they could eat too, and that was part of Jewish law. So I suppose that if I dig back into childhood and I studied that, I saw it at that point. I think I look at it more from a responsibility level. You know, what is our responsibility to our fellow man? I do very well. I have a very good practice. And that practice has to do with serving people, and people, as a result of my serving people, are willing to pay me money in order to be able to do that. I mean, it's essentially the way we all work. But there's more to it than that. There's a certain level of responsibility you have, not just to yourself and not just to your family, but to the groups you belong to. And I've been a member of Helping Seniors of Brevard County ever since it's existed, and that's primarily because of you, by the way.
Yeah, but it goes back further than that. It
does.
It goes back. I've known you since 1994.
Right.
And at that time, you were involved in charitable giving.
Yeah.
The problem, and you and I have discussed this before, but it's extremely important for more people to know about how some people feel about it, because if more people don't start giving back willingly to helping other people, this darn government problem we have is just going to make the problems worse. There is no way that you can rebuild the military, rebuild this, rebuild that, without cutting stuff off and reducing things. And the problem with all of that is all these new programs that are starting, these new Medicaid programs, you simply can't pay for it. There is not enough money in the government to pay for it. I was reading an article in AARP, and I got it with me today, and it's titled Medicaid at 50 Serves 1 in 5 Residents. That's nationwide, but this is also what's going on in Florida.
Yep.
And they're talking about the hundreds of thousands of people that are going to be able to help with a new program called PDO. It's some kind of personal development option. They're going to let people, they're going to hire family members to keep people in their homes longer. Hell, this is what people did 50 years ago. We took care of our own people. Nobody paid us to do it.
It's voluntarily.
Yes.
And now it's being forced upon us. But, I mean, I don't usually get political, and I very seldom have talked about politics on the air, but I can talk about politics in terms of personal responsibility. I can also talk about politics or talk about organizations in terms of ethics. We're suffering. We're suffering from a lack of ethics. We're suffering from a me-first attitude.
Right.
We're suffering from what can I hide and how can I cover it up attitude. That's pervasive. And so if you look at costs of any services, including health care, it's essentially what can I do to be able to gather enough for myself. And that's also from the consumer standpoint. Who can I sue in order to be able to get enough money because I was supposedly done wrong? And we have this attitude. So as a result, if malpractice insurance keeps on going up and up and up, then that does get transferred to the consumer in some way. So I think my efforts, and of course my efforts in my own national organization, which we have, my efforts are to raise the ethics in the organization, among the members of the organization, to raise the expectations of what we should really expect. I'm using expectations twice, but what we should really expect from each other. And, do unto others is essentially where that ends up. And unfortunately, do unto others has really been ignored to a greater and greater extent as I've gotten older and older. I don't know how you feel about it yourself, but I think there's an awful lot of greed, or nobody will find out about it, or justification for doing wrong, when in fact the right thing would cost a lot less and would be a lot better for all of us in society.
I agree 100%. And, the purpose of this show is helping seniors.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hurt every once in a while to go off the topic we have picked for a daily. If I have a panelist that I can discuss intelligently a topic that more people need to be aware of. So many people listening to this show are simply not aware of the many needs that others have. I'm just aware of somebody that recently fell out of a wheelchair, and they fell and hurt themselves badly, had to be taken to a hospital. Well, the circumstances are that it's very difficult for that family to arrange for care someplace. How does one continue to work and provide for a family when you have a family member that needs help but doesn't so-called qualify for one of these darn programs we have, and at the same time we have 45,000 people on the waiting list in Florida? And today I called Tallahassee to find out about this program that was mentioned in Medicaid, and they're going to get back to me and give me some more information on it. But
well, you're talking, but that can be there can be a dichotomy there as well. And maybe you and I won't agree on this. We're always looking at the safety net, and I'm sounding like a Republican now, but we're looking at the safety net, and we're looking at the size of the safety net.
Yeah.
How big should the safety net be? How many programs should we have? And by the way, you and I have talked about programs. You and I have talked about programs right here in Brevard County, and how many dollars are spent for those programs, and how many of those dollars actually go for the services that are provided. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about.
I agree.
So when we start to get into programs, I get scared. I get scared because I know that there's a certain number of people who are benefiting from those programs that aren't necessarily the beneficiaries that those programs were intended for.
100%. I'm with you. You're not getting any argument from me because I agree with you 100%.
So let's talk about. I mean,
Go ahead.
I thought this was a dental show,
Go
but
ahead.
Anyway,
we're going to talk about some dentistry too.
And I've never been so serious on this program in my life. I've been doing shows with you for a long time, but if in fact we were actually really personally responsible for each other, our taxes would go down. Our expenses outside would go down because we no longer have to pay somebody else to do the things that we need to do ourselves. That, in fact, we would have the wherewithal to, as a family, or perhaps even as a church, and church membership has gone down too, by the way, that's all involved in this, that we would provide individual service or group service in our own churches for a person who's in this circumstance, rather than relying upon something you've thrown out to Tallahassee and hope that we get something back. That would be a lot better. Community was really community when you grew up. Community was community when I grew up, and there's a little bit of an age difference between us. But I think from the 60s, 70s, and on now to 2016, I think we've seen a whole diminution of service and what service to each other really means.
Well, that ties in with exactly what Dr. Emma Hernandez tried to develop in 2000, what she called elder-friendly communities.
Yeah.
And in 2002, the Brevard County Commissioners designated Brevard County as an elder-friendly community, and we've probably done nothing since then.
It's a name.
To make it.
It's a name.
It's a name. So I said, all right, what can the Advocacy Council for Helping Seniors take on as a project this year? Last year, we spent 8 months doing a survey, working together, putting together a paper, gave it to the county commissioners, and said, this is something we need to think about doing on an aging plan. We haven't heard a darn thing back from it yet. Nothing. So this year, we're going to we will define what constitutes an elder-friendly community. So in thinking about that, I last week started to put together a 3-part article on what constitutes an elder-friendly community. We have it right here already. We just have to know what it is, what the pieces are, and how those pieces serve people. Then we have to make people aware of the pieces that can serve them, and then we have to figure out how to connect the people to the services, and that's an elder-friendly community.
It's true, but let's get personal for a second.
Okay.
Pastor Reyes is still a member of the board of Helping Seniors of Brevard County, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Take a look at what he's doing within his church in order to be able to create an elder-friendly church. And so that we look from within, using what Sergio is doing himself, and expand out from there rather than looking from the outside and moving in. And that's what he's doing. And that's I would imagine your church is doing the same thing. Our synagogue is doing the same thing to some degree. That we take responsibility for others personally. We know these people. These are people that we go to church with. We go to synagogue with every week. We see them, and so we can take more personal responsibility to get those people better and get those people better faster. We can do that ourselves.
Well, that's the same thing I think should be done with the elder-friendly community here in Brevard County.
Yeah.
The pieces are here. They're in place. People need to know what they are so they can Work with them. Let the pieces that are already there help the people they were designed to help.
And they want to help.
And get it started sooner rather than wait till it's so darn late in the power curve that you can't help them.
That's right.
And that it's so sad. In fact, we're working on I've had my first draft on the second piece, the education piece, and a lady is working on that, and I'll start writing the third part, the connectivity piece. We'll have it ready for the Advocacy Council to take their cuts on that thing, and then we'll figure out how we're going to work to make everybody in Brevard County aware of the fact that there is an elder-friendly community here, and it does mean something, and it can mean something for the future. Because if we don't do more, exactly what you said, Lee. Think about what was said in the Old Testament. Think about what was said in all parts of most religions. At Golden Rule, do unto others what you would do unto yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
If you really practice that, if we really thought about it, it's just like when these nonprofits have these fundraisers and they ask for donations. So many people say, fly a kite, brother, get your money someplace else, and they'll turn around and go out and spend $75 for dinner.
Yeah.
Stay at home and eat a hot dog and give $75 to a charity. But if you're going to give money to a charity, give it to a charity that you've investigated and you know that they're going to do something to help people locally. That's been one of my biggest hurrahs over the years, Lee, is that we have so many organizations right here in Brevard County that really are good and that do help people, and yet they don't have the funds to help them. You know, you're a dentist. Just imagine a poor guy that has dentures that don't fit. When he tries to eat, they slip out of his mouth. And I can imagine how horrible that must be.
It is.
As I'm talking to you, I'm feeling my own teeth with my gut, with my tongue.
Yeah.
And
they don't get to do that.
They can't do it.
They have dental wigs. Essentially, that's what dentures are.
So let's talk about our topic just for a minute today. We'll talk about it a little bit. I've got to put this other paperwork aside.
Okay.
And one of the things that I'd ask Lee folks, I said, what do you want to talk about on the radio show? And he came back and he said, how about we talk about the topic we did on the recent television show? And this television show is called Inclusive Dentistry. And it's almost ready for the Space Coast and Brightworks channel. And for this show, I'll tell you next week when you can access the show and see it on Bright House and on Space Coast Television Government Channel, Channel 499, and Bright House 199. But I will tell you that this show is archived on the Helping Seniors of Brevard.org network. All of Dr. Sheldon's shows are networked there, and you can watch it. And you can actually see the guy that you're hearing over the television show.
Scary, Joe. No, scary. My goodness.
It's not scary. It's not. You know. What was the name of that thing? Where was it? Moldavia, where Frankenstein was?
I have no idea.
No, but it's not. It's not that bad, folks. It's not that bad at all. He actually looks pretty good when he's cleaned up. And of course,
Don't
he arrived
have to get cleaned up for radio, though.
Yeah, he arrived at one television taping one day up at Woodstock. He had a shirt and tie and coat on and a pair of shorts.
That's exactly right.
You remember that?
I learned that from my son. My son's a professional broadcaster. That's what he did.
So we had to keep the cameras up high. So you don't always see, folks, what you think you're seeing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that goes back to the practice of dentistry. It goes back to the practice of helping people. But before we take our mid-show break, Lee, tell our listening audience what do we mean by inclusive dentistry?
Well, that was your term, Joe, and essentially it does say that in fact dentistry is there for everyone. It is there to be taken advantage of. It's not just a product. Remember way back when I used to see when I checked out Azairs, buy 3 crowns and get the 4th free. I mean, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about that, in fact, it's a service, and it's a service that's provided by smart people, and smart people need to be able to plan for you and plan for your future, just like we're talking about long-range planning for finance, for aging, for housing, for anything else. You can include yourself, and everybody else can include themselves in not just the immediate fix, but looking for what the long-term plan can be.
But I think it goes further than that, Lee. We got just thinking of some basic things about personal health and personal care. When you and I were growing up, and I'm older than you are, so I have a farther back image of a dentist than you do. But over the years, I've watched the practice of dentistry become, and the reason I use the term inclusive, I've watched it become something that reached out into other parts of the body.
Yeah.
And I saw the medical community recognizing the importance of what a dentist did to a person's mouth, how we treated infections in teeth, and with the paths through the body which emanate from an infection in a tooth.
Well, it can, and so if you look at it, from that perspective, and you're looking at it from an overall health perspective. Lisa in my office is a certified. We'll talk about it after the break.
Okay,
but she's a certified nutritionist. Imagine a nutritionist working in a periodontal practice and what impact that can make both on periodontal health as well as overall health.
Okay, we'll pick up on that after the break. We'll talk about nutrition. But we're going to take a break back in about 3 minutes. Stay with us, folks. We will talk about dentistry.
AM 1060 WMEL.
This is Joe Steckler, folks. We're back live for the second half of the show with Dr. Lee Sheldon. And we are talking about inclusive dentistry. We got off the topic at the start of the show, but we're going to stick with it the second part of the show. The phone number to call Kay, our information specialist at the office, is 473-7770. Our task for our program is to inform, educate, and connect seniors and those that care for seniors with resources. Sadly, sometimes, folks, we find, even with all the knowledge we have, sometimes we can't find a way to help somebody. Sometimes they can't even bend this darn system the right way to help people that need help. I'm not talking about giving away the farm. I'm talking about helping people in need that have tried to follow the system through their 50, 60, and 70 years, and for some reason, you have a health problem, and everything goes wrong, and there's just nothing available to help them. This is one of the reasons that we founded Helping Seniors 5 years ago. This is one of the reasons we want an endowment. You know, if we had an endowment, and it was as big as the $2 million endowment I left the Alzheimer's program, Lee, if we had a $200,000 endowment, and we took 10% of that, $20,000, think of a family or a person that might need somebody to sit with them for 7 days while they're recuperated, and the other person in the household kept their job and provided for the family. You know, when you've got a fund and you don't have to go through a bunch of rigmarole to get to say, call an agency and say, would you send somebody out there, and if you can do it for $80 or $100 a day, we'll write a check for $500 at the end of this time. $20,000 goes a long way when you work with care agencies to help people. This is the problem we have, I think, with local funding of care problems. We have no resources to do that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what hurts a lot of people. We were talking about dentistry. Well,
so let me tell you about Lisa. You know, Lisa works at my front desk. She's a certified nutritionist. She works at my front desk. So, patient walks in, and you know the type of patient that I see is a patient that is not the ordinary dental patient.
Yes,
it's a patient who's been in big trouble. Dentistry has failed, and they're looking to us for solutions. So they're
people that got literally sometimes people fall with their teeth falling out.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's what we do, and we like doing it, and we have a lot of fun doing it. Particularly, we have a lot of fun when we see the befores and afters, and when patients describe the experiences, but enough of that. Patient walks in and wants dental implants. He has a hemoglobin A1C of 9.1. That means diabetic, uncontrolled diabetic. He's been seeing his doctor, and I said, all right, you've been seeing your doctor. What are you doing for yourself? Give me everything you ate in the past 24 hours. So he gave me everything he ate and drank in the past 24 hours. It was mostly carbohydrates, some meat, and not one vegetable. I can't put dental implants into a body like that. Dental implants will fail. Patients are prone to infection when diabetes is out of control. And the best that I can do for somebody like that is only emergency surgery. In other words, if infections are already there, we have infected teeth, then I can help that person by extracting those teeth. But I can't do anything elective for that person because I'd be putting that person more at risk. What's the answer? Well, the answer could be, I'm sorry, I can't treat you, goodbye. Or my answer could be, Lisa's a certified nutritionist. How about if you spend a month with her getting a lifestyle back that will help you and help you become more healthy? That's what we can do if, in fact, we look beyond just the teeth and the gums, but we look at the whole body. Now, we're going to get his hemoglobin A1C, together with his doctor, we're going to get that hemoglobin A1C down to around 6, which is acceptable for us to do elective surgery. We'll do that. That won't just benefit his dental condition. That'll benefit his overall condition. And he and his wife are going to do this program together. It's interesting when we run patients through a program like that. We assume that people know things. We assume that people know how to read a label. We assume that people understand what they should be eating. And they assume we're going to say, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. The whole idea is to find good things that people like to eat that are healthy for them and get a new lifestyle introduced. And you can do that gradually. You know, I used to play golf.
It's interesting what Lee's talking about, folks, because sitting in front of me was something I was going to ask Lee about, and this is the honest to God truth, is a consumer report on health, and the feature article that my wife gave it to me to read. The feature article is How to Eat Healthy Now.
How do you like that?
How do you like that?
Yeah,
huh?
It's something.
So, once in a while, if I slip and I have my Dorito Ranch chips with my sandwich, when my wife allows me to have a sandwich, that's not bad, is it?
No, slipping is slipping. Slipping is okay.
It's good.
It's what's the overall lifestyle that we're looking at. It's what you're doing 7 days a week, not what you happen to do for an hour once a week. That's not the issue.
So
it's
last
what you do
night,
most of the time.
Okay, last night I had fresh shrimp, asparagus, and corn on the cob.
Yeah.
That that's I call that light eating. I call it, and I find that one of the biggest problems that Americans have is getting our stomach shrunk enough so that you don't overeat. It's not just what you put in there; it's how you expand your gut to let yourself put more and more and more in there. And that's just not women. I mean, men. Women do the same thing.
All right, let me give you a test.
Okay.
Of the 3 things you ate, okay? So let's go back. You had shrimp, you had asparagus, and you had corn on the cob. What's the healthiest of the 3 items that you ate?
Asparagus.
Yeah.
Because I know there's sugar in the corn.
Yeah.
And
corn is really, people think corn is a vegetable. Corn is a grain at best, and there's not much nutritional value to corn at all. At least not the way corn is now. Way, 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 way back when corn was really maize, and that's what was eaten in this country, particularly by the Native American population. There was some nutritional value there. There's no nutritional value, or not much nutritional value.
Why?
From corn.
Well, how has it changed? Do you know?
I think there was a lot of genetic engineering that occurred to get it to the point where it is right now.
God, I never would have thought about that on the corn. I used to, when I was stationed, when I was in the
By
Navy.
the way, that goes back to why Lisa can be so effective when she's working with patients. Because here you are, a well-educated man, and you just said to me, I didn't know the corn was that bad. Those are the benefits. So you might have looked at that and you would have said, how many vegetables did you eat last night? And you might have said 2, asparagus and corn, when the answer was really 1, asparagus. And if you look at the American Cancer Society website or the American Heart Association website, what's the number of fruits and vegetables, servings of fruits and vegetables we should eat, minimum number per day? Something like 7.
4.
7. It's gone up, yes. It used to be 5. It's gone up 7.
How can you eat 7 vegetables?
7 to 13 servings of fruits and vegetables. And if you look at, great book that I read, listened to on Audible, it's called How Not to Die. It was published in December 2015. Author's name is Dr. Michael Greger. And he talks about the medical literature and the medical literature with regard to nutrition, and he looks at all of the common diseases that people die from and what's referenced in the medical literature with regard to that. And if you look at the bulk of the literature, it says a plant-based diet is what keeps people healthier longer and living longer not in disease, but living longer in health, being able to function and do pretty much what they want. Plant-based. Now, plant-based does not mean a lot of meat and a little bit of vegetables. It means plant-based.
I know that. I know that. And I'm just sitting there trying to figure out how in the world the average person, how can I eat 7 servings of vegetables a day, Lee?
Well, let's define what a serving of vegetable is. It would be a half a cup of cooked something or other, or a cup of raw something or other, whatever that is.
All right.
Okay, let's look at some of the most beneficial vegetables, which we don't really consider vegetables sometimes, and that's beans. Okay, beans and rice. Okay. Yeah. All right, you've got fiber and you've got nutrients that are coming from those beans. Beans are cheap. You know, how much does it cost for a can of beans? Not very much. If you get dried beans, that's even cheaper. You know, you soak them overnight and then you cook them for an hour and you got the beans.
Soak them. Sometimes they don't cook. They're still hard.
Particularly if they've been hanging around the cupboard for a long time, Joe.
You can make it a humorous subject, but Lee, it is extremely serious.
Yeah.
It's extremely serious.
It's the reason for chronic degenerative disease that we have in our society, and particularly in our society, American society. We assume that if we're going to get meat, that it's, I'm getting protein, it's great. Well, yeah, we all need protein. We do. But we can't look at that as the main focus of our diet. The American diet, you know what the American diet was referred to by nutritionists in this country. It's called SAD.
I did not know
the
that.
Standard American Diet. SAD.
Standard
and you compared our diet to any diet in any other civilized country. It's so far off the norm of what we should be eating.
I think a lot of people try to eat healthily. I think a lot of people try to do this, but sometimes the lifestyle we live, especially with our young families, you got the mother and father both working. You've got the kids in all kinds of sports. The mother or the father are a relative trying to run the kids back and forth to different things. And I read a recent statistic that on the numbers of families that eat together today, it's not like it was when I grew up or you grew up.
No, but
we always ate together.
That's sad.
Yeah.
It's sad what's going on right now. And the reasons that people say, I can't eat properly, which are the same reasons you just gave me.
What?
The reasons you just gave me. I've got to take the kids here. We've got two families working. We've got all of these things. Frankly, what I do, and I'm the cook in our family, is I do all my cooking on Sunday. Now, every once in a while, I'll do something during the week, and we do go out occasionally. But I do all my cooking on Sunday, and then it's warming up, and I have the foods available to do that. So, typically, and what I'm going to do right now, as soon as I leave here, I'm going to go to the health food store. I'm going to buy 6 portobello mushrooms, 6 peppers. Okay? And then Eleanor and I are going away. By the way, this is our 43rd wedding anniversary today.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So we're going away.
Congratulations to you, Eleanor, for putting up with him this time.
So we're going away tomorrow. We'll be back on Sunday. I'll have my portobello mushrooms. I'll have my peppers. I will roast. I will put a little bit of oil and balsamic vinegar in the mushrooms. I'll roast those. I will roast my peppers, and I'll have the basics for my meal, which will be the basics for salads that we'll be making during the week. I'll also
wait a minute. Are you going away and you're taking that stuff with you?
No, I'm going. I'm going. The health food store isn't open on Sunday, and I'm going to be back on Sunday. So I'm buying the vegetables today. I'll be cooking them. I'll be roasting them on Sunday, and that'll be the fundamentals that I'll have in the refrigerator. In addition, I'll make up a pot of beans. Well, if I have a pot of beans, I have enough raw vegetables, and I have some cooked vegetables that I like. I can do an awful lot with that and get dinner ready every single day in a half an hour or less.
Are you back on meat or not?
I'm eating some meat, but not. I was a vegetarian for 11 years.
I know you.
Then
were.
I was eating meat for 10 years. Now I'm on a plant-based diet, and we're not eating meat in the house. But when we go out, we'll have meat.
What is the meat that you eat the most?
I like lamb chops the best.
Like what?
Lamb chops, and lamb chops is one of the safest meats you can eat.
I don't like lamb, and I used to tell somebody that, and Terry knows that some very good friends of ours, they're both dead now, but she fixed a lamb roast and had a lot of garlic in it, and I thought it was beef. She fooled me.
Yeah.
And actually, it was extremely good. But every time I think of lamb, I think of that stuff that they used to serve us at the Naval Academy. It was mutton and big slices of that darn stuff with congealed gravy on top of it and a big thing of mint jelly. And I just, that was not a supper I liked.
No.
I couldn't handle that one.
No, I've never.
I can eat most anything, but that's the one I really don't like. Go back to inclusive dentistry before we wind this show up. I think I would just like for you to talk for a few minutes to our listening audience about some of the advances, especially equipment-wise, that have enabled periodontists to not only detect deeper periodontal disease, but have enabled you to treat periodontal disease more cost-effectively, because I think that this equipment has done that.
Yeah, I think one of the most fabulous pieces of equipment that we have is something called the perioscope. You know how endoscopic surgery is so important for knee surgery, so you do endoscopic surgery, doing the surgery through a scope rather than making a big incision.
Yeah, I did that on my...
Yeah, we can do the same thing for gums. And unfortunately, the periscope is not selling very well in the United States. It's selling better overseas than it is here, but instead of cutting gums as we used to, or when you need a deep cleaning, how do you know that you've really cleaned the roots effectively? You don't, because when the hygienist is going below the gum line, the hygienist is trying to clean the calculus, which is hard material, off the root surfaces by feel. And the hygienist can only be effective at about 4 millimeters below the gum line. Well, most people have periodontal pockets have deeper pockets than that. And so when they're trying to clean by feel, they can't do it. So the periodontist will do surgery in order to be able to see that calculus and get it out.
But your scope, you can do it.
But here, the scope, you can go down to into the pocket. Rebecca does it, and she's kept most of my patients out of periodontal surgery for years. So that's one.
It's an interesting statement you made about that equipment selling better overseas than in the United States. I do not think that overseas, in other countries, there was far. I was under the impression that the United States was probably more advanced in terms of dental treatments than any other country in the world.
Yeah, and for the most part, we are. But in this particular venue, we aren't. A fabulous test called the oral DNA test. Oral DNA. In other words, what is the DNA of the bacteria in your mouth? And this has been a problem for years for us to be able to identify the bacteria that actually causes periodontal disease. Well, that's been pretty much definitively outlined, although more research is, of course, showing more and more things. But we're finding that there's 11 periodontal disease bacteria that we commonly find in the mouth. And if we know which bacteria is growing there, we can use antibiotics to help to kill the disease. Again, another way that we can minimize the type of treatment that's done. So a patient can come into the office, can spit in a cup. We don't have to worry about the bacteria staying alive because DNA stays there whether the bacteria is alive or not. So the patient spits in the cup, we seal up the cup, we send it out to a lab, and within a week we find out what bacteria is growing in the patient's mouth. By knowing what bacteria is growing in the patient's mouth, we know which of the bacteria are going to cause a lot of disease fast and that we need to treat with antibiotics right away, and we know which of the bacteria we might be better off just scraping out as we ordinarily do using the periscope. If the patient needs an antibiotic, we're able to get the periodontal disease under control, the severe periodontal disease under control, bone grows back, patients keep their teeth. That's a simple $200 test.
I want to make an assumption. I listen to you talk about this. I know of your visits to foreign countries to check up on the latest things in dentistry. But I have a concern as to why, the organization you're starting, the group of periodontists, is this one of the things that you're trying to get more periodontists to do?
What I'm trying to get more periodontists to do is to go directly to the public and not rely upon referrals from the general dentist. I think there's a lot of patients who could benefit from seeing periodontists, but they don't even know the periodontists exist. Periodontists are the architects of the mouth. They are the treatment planners, they're the diagnosticians of the mouth, and patients should be, more patients, particularly when they have complex problems of the mouth, should be seeing a periodontist first.
Why don't then the periodontists put together a program that would highlight the importance of early, in-depth periodontal inspections in the mouth?
I think as a matter of expense, there's only about 2,600 periodontists in the United States. That's not a lot to be able to market nationally. And while they are doing a campaign called Love Your Gums, they're only the organization, the American Academy of Periodontology, is putting $500,000 to that campaign a year. That's nothing when it comes to public service and public service.
We're taping in May.
Yeah.
So let's make one of the shows we tape the importance of periodontal. We'll title something have to do with the importance of periodontal inspections. And since we're trying to make the Space Coast government channel an elder-friendly channel, this would be something that could be shown to the 500,000 people in Brevard County. And something, folks, don't take me lightly. We are working to make the Space Coast government television channel an elder-friendly community channel, and we intend to put programs just like Lee and I are talking about today on that network so more people can be better informed about how they can protect their body. I want to mention real quick my sponsors, Lee. I forgot I should have mentioned this to folks, but Senior Scene Magazine, Hometown News, Spotlight Magazine, Seniors Helping Seniors, The Fountains of Melbourne, Courtney Bradswell Financial Team Planners, Barbara McIntyre, Home Equity Loan Specialist, and I've got to talk to her today about a lady's problem, Canadian Meds of Melbourne, Ear Care with 3 shops around Brevard County, Vitas Hospice, Handy Pro of the Space Coast, and you'll see where Elaine and I did part of the TV show with her service dogs, and that was interesting. Had one on my lap and one at my feet, and I'll tell you sometime what the one at my feet did. And then Aldea today. But, Lee, you get to close the show today.
Well, I think we've all got to understand that as seniors, we have every opportunity to live healthful lives. That's what we're doing. When we put a guest like me on the program, I'm trying to help you live healthier and, frankly, make your dental bills cheaper, and I hope we can do that. Right. So continue to listen to what we're talking about.
Thank you, Lee, and thank you for listening to the show today, folks. We'll be back with you next week. I'm not sure who my panelists will be, but we'll have somebody here. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. Have a great weekend.